made contact and shattered.
At some point, Chris locates what's called a dry bag.
Law enforcement had considered Laundrie the only person of interest in the murder of his fiancée, Gabby Petito.
On reference to a missing 4-year-old, the parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Hello?
It's John.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning from the East Coast. Thank you for being here for another ATS live stream. We're going over the Idaho 4 today. Still, the last time we spoke was on Monday morning, same time, same place, and it seems as though a lot has happened since then. So I think we should just get right into it. I have some things I want to share with you guys. And yeah, just good morning, everybody, and good morning to my moderators and everyone joining in chat. I see Florida Bass Fishing, Mello77, Megan, Elsa, Spencer, Allison. Thank you guys all for being here. Good morning, David Carter. It's good to see you. And hi, Jackie. So as everyone's joining us, I figured we would just get into it, guys. So as you know, that white car that was seen on CCTV footage at a gas station has been circulating since yesterday. I shared it on my community page as soon as I saw it because I like sharing the news with you guys right away. But now I'm actually going to read the information based on that picture, and we can kind of break apart the things that have taken place. We have a few statements from the public information officer that we're going to go through. We've got information from the chief of police and that sergeant or the captain. I think just the captain, actually, not the chief. So what I've done is I've decided to put together everything that the public information officer has said thus far in order. And then I've got the latest that the captain has said in order. And I'm not playing all of their statements because I know you guys have seen the captain's 6-minute talk already. So I've just pulled apart like little highlights from that because I just don't see the point of re-listening to it again when there was no information really given. But I'm just checking the baby monitor. She's still sleeping. Okay, so let's get into this, guys. I'm trying to think of what else I have to play for you guys in my compilation I put together. I know that there's some former CIA and former FBI people giving their comments. Oh, yeah, Joseph Morris. Not Joseph Morris. Oh, my gosh. Joseph Morris is the one that came out with the fake scream. Well, since I named him. I've only had like 3 sips of coffee, guys. But yeah, Joseph Morris is the one with the fake scream. I guess I might as well just lay that out there. No, I'm putting together the forensic analysis and the death investigator, Joseph Scott Morgan's statements this week in the compilation that I'm going to play for you guys. So some good stuff coming up. All right, so just stick around and we'll go through it all together. And good morning, Joe and Mandy S. and everyone else who's joined us. Without Borders, Nicole, thank you guys for being here. Hit the like if you haven't done so already. It's greatly appreciated. So once again, we're going to start off with the most recent information. And then as the compilation trickles out, it's just going to go back and back towards when we last spoke on Monday, okay? And good morning, everybody, again.
Detectives collected 8 hours of surveillance video Tuesday morning from a gas station in Moscow where a clerk saw a white sedan passing by at 3:45 a.m. on the night of the unsolved quadruple homicide. An overnight assistant manager told Fox that she's been reviewing the tapes a little bit at a time over the past few days, looking for clues in her downtime on the graveyard shift. She said she was not working on the night of the murders. Monday night, she said she reached the 3 o'clock hour and spotted the car. She said she took a picture of the screen and sent it in an email to the police. I had a weird feeling to go get on the cameras. She said, asking that her name not be publicized out of the safety concerns as the suspect remains at large. The car drove by real quick, she said, and turned down a side street off Highway 8. Last week, police said they were looking to speak with the occupants of a white Hyundai Elantra who may have information on the slayings. Police have said they believe anyone in the Elantra may have critical information to share in the case. Investigators arrived Tuesday morning around 11 a.m. and collected the video. The store manager said that the officers identified themselves as state detectives and took a whole shift's worth of video. Asked if they'd found anything substantial as they left the building, one responded, "Not yet." Police say the white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra was seen near the victim's home around the time of the slayings. The detectives went directly to the police station after leaving the gas station, and it was too soon for investigators to comment on the contents of the video. Robbie Johnson, a spokeswoman, said police continue to seek help from the public, but said she could not immediately confirm whether the car on the gas station's video was the same Elantra. If you saw anything that night that looks strange, anything you have to report, even if you don't think it's anything, we're still encouraging people to send that in, she said. When we get information, even if it's small, sometimes it can piece together the timeline, put those puzzle pieces together, and we get a greater, bigger picture of what's going on.
Well, part of our delay was
Okay, so that was the article about the white car seen on the footage at the gas station. My question is, why did it take so long? Like, I know that they've been telling the public, please check your cameras from this time frame to that time frame. They've even given specific locations around town where they really want information on. My thing is like, why did it take so long? Like, I know that this woman is just working the night shift and she took it upon herself, but like, it just sort of surprises me that like a cop didn't already come in there and say, we're going to need, because again, they've mentioned how some of these places don't have cameras and crime is low there. So there's not a lot of doorbell cameras and all that. But I'm just like thinking they should know the places that absolutely have them, like ATM cameras are always there. And then obviously gas station cameras are always there. So it just surprises me with it being such a small town that they wouldn't have already gone to this gas station as well as other gas stations and been like, we're going to need your footage from this night. I don't know. To me, it's just, maybe that's just not how things go. I don't know. But what I did find interesting was that, they've said over and over about the white car, not necessarily the one in the article I just read right there, but they've said that they have reason to think that it was near the home at the time of the crime. So there's also been rumors that that white car was seen in the grub truck video. Now, again, I haven't skimmed through the video as closely as some of you guys, so I was hoping that anybody in chat or down below, if you could comment where in the grub truck video you see a white car, just to let me know. I'm not saying I'm going to pull it up right now, but just for my notes. And now we're going to get into the family lawyer for Kaylee's family.
met with the investigators yesterday. We met with the prosecutor of the investigators, Chief Fry, and had a meeting with all of them. Part of our that meeting, actually, the kind of the theme of the meeting was two things: was accountability and communication.
Attorney Shannon Gray says the family wants a more consistent stream of information from police. He says most of their questions about the investigation have still gone unanswered, but they are hopeful police are doing the right things.
I'm curious, before we get into the public information or officers' comments, what you guys think about them getting their lawyer. I don't know if you saw the longer interview from Fox. I put it on my channel last night. I think it's around 13 minutes. But it just, I've gotten mixed comments underneath the comment section. Some of them are in support of this lawyer and understanding it, and then others think that it's ridiculous and that the lawyer is not going to be able to bring the family anything more than if they didn't have the lawyer. I don't know. What do you guys think? Yes, I noticed that, Chon. All the media is now reporting on Kaylee's dad's news statement. Is that what's the new statement? I'm curious because I was up late, but I didn't see anything. But I do know that the media has like stopped repeating what was being rumored going around from Fox earlier this week. Because remember, Fox came out with something that was talking about the nature of the crime, and it was very detailed. And then Kaylee's family came out saying, like, on Facebook, the sister and the daughter said that's not what we told Fox. So it was sort of a little bit of confusion again of like, what do we believe? Who said this? Who said what? Yeah, I agree, Allison. I think the lawyer is making statements for the family. Yeah, Melmac, there was like a 13-minute interview that the lawyer for the family did with Fox last night. And I just clipped just the interview part and put it on my channel. And it's not his face talking. I actually added visuals from the case, so it's a little bit more interesting to watch, in my opinion. Okay, that was the statement you were talking about. Yeah, I noticed that too. And like some of the media was saying like, and now statements are being walked back or something like that. And it's like, oh geez. It's just annoying. Like, I just want to follow a story and be able to rely on the information. And I did notice that article where the family said they didn't say that stuff, some of the article had his words in quotes, and then some of the article didn't have his words in quotes. So I don't know, guys. I'm sorry that was going around. I'm hoping that this live stream kind of clears up a little bit of that, because I forgot to say, I added a lot of the stuff that the coroner has stated publicly, and I kind of did like a little compilation of her statements. It's not that long, but they're very telling. And apparently she told News Nation the other day, when News Nation asked about the injuries, if that Fox article sounded accurate to what she had known and saw, and she said no. So we'll get to all that in the stream too as well, guys. So stick around and hit the like if you haven't. Now we're going to get into the public information officers' statements and go through them, and kind of just hopefully this information will help iron out some of our questions.
We've been so successful and really can thank the community and the public for all the tips they are providing us. We have so many and good ones. So we're in the process of vetting and categorizing all of those, getting those to the investigative team so they can take action on them right away. So we're in that process. A reward maybe is an option down the road, but we have such good information from the public as we are right now. We're working with that first.
And I would just like to add, since we've already gone over the car stuff seen in that gas station footage, it's too soon for law enforcement to come out and say that if that's the car they were looking for or not. Now, that was taken on Tuesday. Not that long ago, guys. Hello. Only a day. I'm looking at the clock. So if they do think that that's the car they're looking for, will they come out and tell the public, like, yep, that's the car? Or do you think they're going to still leave it up in the air as like, well, we don't know yet?
It was seen in the King Road area around the same time as the murders. Investigators believe the people in the car may have critical information.
Now, this was a report from, I think, the local news talking about the white car. And did you hear what he just said? The people in the car, the police believe might have vital information or whatever. So it just seems as though, again, we've talked about this before, and I know a lot of people are, that the police are under the impression there really could be more than one person in the white car that they're looking for. Now, if it's the car that we've seen in that CCTV footage, the windows look incredibly dark, like tinted. I don't know. In New York, where I live, it's illegal to have your tint that dark. Now, again, I don't know what Idaho is. A lot of other states allow the tint, so I can't really use my state as like a good comparison because they're just super strict here. But I'm just curious, in the information that they've gathered on the white Hyundai, did window tint have something that they had considered also? Because they never really told us that. They've just shared with us the stock photo, right? And the stock photo, you can see directly through there. Like, I know that picture hasn't been confirmed to be the same car, but if it is the same car, are we looking for a white Hyundai that also has window tint?
So we know the vehicle was there. We just don't know who was in it. who may have owned that car, who may have information about what happened that night.
So they know the car was there. Now, to me, that means they have more video proof of it. We bounced around with the idea that maybe they got this information through an interview. Maybe they did. Maybe somebody saw it and then they had video to back it up. But she's very confident in all her interviews that they know that it was there and that they need to speak to them, like urgently. Like pretty much I'm thinking that the occupants of that white car are the suspects that just haven't been named or something. And when I say suspects plural and when they say occupants plural, you know, we're not necessarily saying that there's more than one killer, but like, was there some sort of plan or like conspiracy between people? I don't know. I think it's possible. I mean, for 4 people to be killed. But at the same time, then that's just adding in more people to keep your secrets and more people to keep things down low. And I do want to emphasize that I added the picture on here with her information that she's giving. But I do want to say that law enforcement has not confirmed that that CCTV image is the exact car. But I think that it might be. So I kind of put them together.
So that is a real big focus right now as we try to get those answers. Naturally, they were at the right place at the right time to potentially see some sort of activity. Like a lot of our tips and leads, sometimes people don't know if what they're providing is critical information, but we still want that information because as we piece everything together, we have specific things we're looking for.
Rest assured, we're interviewing anyone in any way that could know what happened that night, provide us information to help with this case. No, that's just part of the ongoing efforts we're making. And again, we understand these questions, wanting to have answers, how hard it is for the families not to have them. But again, when we talk about these specifics, this information, we have to keep it safe. We have to make sure we're using the information for the integrity of the case to make an arrest and ultimately go to trial and get justice.
Understand. One of the former tenants in the home showed us a picture and also recounted that when he lived in the home as late as 2019, December 2019, exactly 3 years ago, he recounted that each of those rooms was rented separately and thus each room had a keypad lock to enter.
Of course, we've been hearing all about we have to have the information about locks and so many other things about we don't this want case. And really the best service we can provide to the public and to this investigation is really to remind people that all the information we have that is appropriate for release, we have done that on the website and our official Facebook page. So we really ask you to go back and look at all that information. So as you're hearing things, cross-check it with that to see what we have released. Our main goal is to have justice for these victims and the families, and that's what we're focusing on.
The significance of the car is we know it was there. We know we haven't spoken to who was in that car, who may have owned that car, and we need to speak to them. We know that that person could really have the information we need to break the case.
That's what I'm thinking too. And she's said more than once in her statements that this person could break the case. Like she's used the term break the case. And it just seems very urgent, very vital. They need to get this driver or occupants. And yes, I do agree with, I think Joe said, that can just be used as a vague statement. We have seen in their press release, the paper form, the typed up one that they've been giving us digital, that it has occupants like with the S in parentheses as like, maybe there's more than one. I don't know. But yeah, I agree. It's just every day that goes by that they don't get this person to come forward. I mean, everyone knows about this white car at this point, and people have said things like, oh, well, they dumped this car in the river at this point, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, probably used occupants not to point out an individual and scare them, in my opinion. And that's true too. Like we have to consider the fact that they might have their suspect in mind and it's going to take time to build their stuff against this person. So they're laying low while they just watch from a distance. Excuse me. And then they're going to, once they have everything that they need that's solid, then they're going to name the suspect or take him in or announce to everybody we've made an arrest, But for right now, they can't let their prey know that they're stalking it in a way, I'm looking at everyone's comments in chat. And hello, Green Eyes. Good to see you. And everyone else who's joined us, True Crime Snoopy, Justice Served Daily. Thanks for being here. Mary, Dustin. Thank you, guys. Sorry if that editing, I think there was something that was overlapped. So I'm sorry about that, guys.
The tips and leads have just shown us that that car was there in that immediate area. So whoever was in that car may know who might have owned that car. Any of that information is extremely valuable to us right now because it could be really significant in solving this case. The information that we're giving is all about solving the crime. So knowing that we're not releasing all that information, know that we're keeping safe the information that we need to find who did this.
I got called at home. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and
So this was on the Moscow Police Public Information YouTube channel. I was sort of stunned by it. I don't know why. I almost felt like we've never seen this before in an active case where one of the lead people have come forward and just describe the series of events that day, like this early, like it's only been a month. And the captain's coming on and sharing his story. And it's like very fascinating. I love hearing it. But I was sort of kind of like, wow, like I didn't know that they would do that. I don't know. I don't know why I was so surprised by it. But anyways, I find it very interesting. And I agree that that public information officer has done a fabulous job, Robbie Johnson, since she's kind of made her name and face known last week. I've just realized watching her and editing her with the media and all that, she's just been, you know, very composed, very articulate. Obviously, her job is to communicate. So I just feel like it's been a help for things. So now let's listen to what the captain has to say about the day he got, you know, the dispatch call, you know, and has changed his life forever. And now we're all invested in getting these victims justice.
took me a second. I really had to think about what I had just heard. 4 murders in Moscow, Idaho is so out of character, and at the time they were fairly certain it was college students and it was near the campus, and that area is kind of a campus community. So once I got over the initial shock, I knew that I was coming to the station. So I drove in, and everybody just kind of fell into a role. That was an all hands on deck moment Sunday afternoon. It became fairly apparent when I got to the scene that we were going to need resources outside of just what the Moscow Police Department could provide. And we have a very, very good working relationship with the Idaho State Police. We knew what their capabilities were, and so that was the first call that we made to have their investigative team come up and help us process the scene. The scene wasn't chaos, you know, the neighborhood, but it was very, very somber. Like I said, that is a community of college students that live over there. Many of them, through word of mouth, knew what had happened. They were standing outside. There was a lot of crying. There were friends trying to find out who exactly was inside the house. Some family members that arrived on scene. It was incredibly hard for the community, but it was also really, really hard on our officers, some of whom were very young, and that was the first real major crime scene that they had encountered. So emotionally, it was a very, very draining day. But resources came, and then the first about 3 days was just an adjustment, trying to get resources in place and then get a system that worked for everybody. The FBI got involved almost immediately, and the FBI, the Idaho State Police, and the Moscow Police Department all have a little bit different way of doing things, and that's okay, but when you're working collectively, you have to put a system in place that starts information flowing and you can handle it in a logical manner. So fortunately, the FBI has some experience in those areas, and they were very, very good at helping us set up their virtual command post. And then once everything was in place, it became a very, very systematic method of processing the information that was coming in. Yeah, a lot of emotional highs and lows, but an incredible amount of teamwork. The general public doesn't have any idea the scope of this investigation, the number of people that are involved, not just here in Moscow, but investigative and interview teams in the northern part of Idaho, the southern part of Idaho, the eastern part of Idaho, resources from the Salt Lake City FBI office, the Coeur d'Alene FBI office, analysts back in Virginia, and the number of people that have flown here or driven here from great distances to just lend their specialty to this investigation. We have the FBI's command post in our parking lot, and we've hooked them up to Wi-Fi, and everything that they would normally do down in Salt Lake City, they're doing right here in our parking lot. So the team effort has been amazing. It's been overwhelming at times, but there are so many people with so much expertise. Somebody always steps up and takes the role that needs to be filled. We've always closely guarded the information that we've discovered at the scene and our investigative information, because we want to protect the integrity of this investigation. And just look at social media and the rumors that fly out there. A small piece of information that has speculation added to it just takes its own life on the internet and starts rumors, and then
So I'm just going to pause it real quick because he's just talking about social media rumors. We try to keep it super factual here. So whenever he talks about issues from social media, I just know that it's not me or any of my subs and commenters. So good job, everybody, for keeping factual. And thank you, Marshall Dove, so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you and everybody for being here. So yeah, what do you guys think of him discussing this right now? This came out yesterday. I'm going to continue it, but yeah, just completely crazy, right? And I seen somebody talk about, oh yeah, okay, so it was Joe and Florida Bass Fishing in chat are talking about the 911 call and why it was stated that somebody was there unconscious. And we all know the rumor, which I have to say it is rumor, it has not been confirmed. It could be true that, you know, one of the surviving roommates saw the scene, went outside screaming, passed out. Again, that definitely could be, right? I mean, that could be possible. Very traumatic. Who wouldn't pass out, right? But again, it's just a rumor. And also, I still think about if that's true, right? Then why were the people, because there's multiple people on the 911 call, why were people passing around and not one person said there's a bloody mess here? You know, like I see what you guys mean by saying the law enforcement was called to an unconscious person. And I do think that it's definitely possible that the scene here would make any person, you know, kind of wheezy and lightheaded, etc. But I'm just wondering, like, multiple people get on the phone, not one of them say the words blood. I don't know. It's just very confusing to me. And good morning, Mark. It's good to see you. And once again, thank you so much, Marshall Dove.
we find ourselves not only tracking those rumors down and trying to quell them, but also we see our tips that come in are geared more toward the rumor, not the facts that have been put out. And the really unfortunate part of it is the effect that it's had on the victims' families, on the college students and friends of the victims, some of whom have had death threats, and constant harassment by various media outlets. So it's been devastating in some ways. In many ways, it just re-victimizes folks who have already suffered this terrible trauma. Well, this investigation is not cold. We get tips every day that are viable. We get dozens and dozens of tips. We sort through them, we prioritize them, and for sure, some of them are not good tips. They're not even relevant to the case. But every single day, we get a good amount of viable tips, and those tips help us do everything from clear people who maybe there was some speculation about, to further some of the theories that we're working on. So the next is just to continue on what we're doing, eliminate the information that we know is not going to be relevant to the investigation, and take all the new information, and eventually, and we see this coming, eventually we're going to narrow in on exactly what happened and who did it. The FBI, their investigators are ready at a moment's notice at any place in the country to go conduct an interview.
Now, this part is the part that I told you guys I didn't put the whole 6 minutes in because this occurred, I believe, on Monday, and it's just been going around so much. I didn't want to just regurgitate it. But I do think it's interesting that, when he's talking about the FBI and he's saying we can, they can conduct an interview anywhere in the country. It just makes me think, them looking for this white car. Is this perpetrator, out of the state, or do they believe that they're from Idaho? A lot of different mixed signals and opinions there. But the next thing he's going to say is, we want a conviction. And that was in reference to him going on about how, we can't give the public certain information because we have to protect the investigation so that we can seek justice, etc. Personally, I think it's a good sign that we've had them mention the word conviction. Like, I have faith that they have way more than what we have. And I'm curious what you guys are thinking too. Like, when he says we want a conviction, like, obviously that's the end goal, right? But it just seems like they're very confident in it. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just being hopeful and wishful, but it seems like they might have something. And I agree, Alicia, the 911 call won't be out till the trial. And good morning, Insanely Confused, and E.E. Caroline, it's good to see you. E.E. Caroline says, not mentioning blood suggests they did not see any or did not recognize what they saw as blood. Bedding absorbs a lot, so that accounts for a lot of the the blood not seen. Yeah. And since you mentioned the sheets, that's just another thing that my head kind of goes to, is like, wow, it does take a bit of time to bring all these pieces of evidence to, like, the evidence locker at, like, the station, and hang the sheets up, like, in the evidence locker so that it dries out, and they're able to pull, hairs and fibers off of the blood that's on the sheets and stuff, because you know what it is. Once it coagulates, etc. You guys know, stickiness. There could be very essential pieces of fibers that have fallen into those sheets. It could be human hair. It could be hair fibers from the perpetrator's clothing, or a sweater, or gloves, or a ski mask, which Scott Morgan gets to in the stream. We're still going to be listening to a lot, guys. So stay with me. And good morning, Titanium Built. And yes, I agree, Corey, the 911 call is key. And I just am so curious to what that's like, even though I'm, like, afraid to listen to it.
We want a conviction.
I think this is really what I've said all along, is that it's more than just an arrest in this case. This is being able to prosecute this case fully into the full extent of the law, and not having anything like a mistrial, not having issues trying to seat a jury. That's why they are keeping this information so close to the chest. But bagging one's hands, particularly in cases of homicide, is actually quite normal, or SOP, standard operating procedure.
And yeah, I do agree that there have been statements and evidence to show that blood did kind of trickle around the house, right? So that 911 call is just full of mystery, and so is the scene. And only the first responders and, obviously the coroner know what that scene was, which was another reason why I added the coroner's statements in here in sort of a compilation, because I think that regardless if she went back on certain details, I've ironed out those details too. What she saw is important, and what the surviving roommates and then the friends that were summoned over is important as well. And I don't know if you guys noticed in that recount that the captain was doing there before he says we want a conviction, blah, 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 from Monday. Yesterday's statement that I had edited in there, he says something about the scene when he arrived, and, it was only chaotic because of the people that, like, he says something about family being there. And I know that people have spoken about how possibly Ethan's siblings were called over or whatever. And I'm just like, I just feel horrible for the kids who, seen their sibling like that. It's just terrible. And I call them kids because I'm like 14 years older than them. But either way, guys, it is traumatic, I'm sure, for them to, I don't know, go on the rest of their lives not being a triplet anymore. There'll always be triplets, but now it's like they're like forced to be twins now.
And typically they're bagged with paper bags because it's biological evidence, and that's how you contain biological evidence. Really, what's done there is to ensure that any kind of evidence underneath their fingernails, if anyone put up a struggle, was able to dig into the suspect a bit. That's why hands are bagged, because you have to properly be able to secure that evidence to transport them to the medical examiner for that to then be processed by them. I'm guessing, again, this is just my hypothesis, that the DNA that they retrieved from any, on the crime scene under fingernails, those kinds of things, is probably not in CODIS, which is the nationwide database. And so what they're probably trying to do is, if all four had similar DNA on them, then what that does do is build a profile. And what that does do is, once they do identify a suspect, links that suspect to all four victims. I do think that the killer is probably watching this, which is another reason why I do believe that they have been so tight-lipped and so very deliberate in terms of the evidence that they have released. I do think that they think the killer is either a member of the community or has ingrained himself back into the community.
Now, she has stated that before. We've played her opinion before. She's former CIA and FBI special agent. Something that I think kind of corroborates what she's sort of saying, and maybe it doesn't, but I want to know your guys' thoughts. When she says things like, she thinks that they think that he's watching closely, the perpetrator, and that he's integrated himself back into the community. I'm wondering if that, so the crime scene, they've said last week, was still active or whatever, even when they had the victims' belongings being distributed back to the families, that was still an active crime scene. And it just makes me wonder, of course the patrol cop there is there to protect the crime scene, and it's there 24/7 according to their last statement, law enforcement. It makes me wonder too, if the aspect of course, there's a possibility that the perpetrator might want to go back in the house. Maybe he forgot something, or maybe it just can't help but want to be near the crime scene. You know what I mean? Even if it doesn't want to get in the house, what if they want to be near it? What if they forgot something? What if that glove, I'm not saying it is, but what if it's something they feel like they got to get back there? A lot of killers revisit the crime scene. But it just makes me think, if they think wow, it's very possible. What if he did try to go back there? I don't know.
And I do think that they feel that the killer is really watching sort of their every move, and they don't want the killer to get one step ahead of them. So I think the problem is, when you have this much pressure on you, you have a lot of pressure to do things quickly and to get things done and processed quickly. And then what that does is it can perhaps lead to mistakes in terms of evidence processing, and then the logging of that evidence. And that can become problematic. Also, you have a natural overabundance of evidence here, even without public tips, and even without public speculation. And so what they have to do is go and run down every single one of those tips and speculation, and also process the known evidence that was at the crime scene, or the known digital evidence from the victims and other potential suspects. So what that does is it actually adds to the time and allows any suspect or potential suspects to sort of get out ahead of the case. And that can become problematic.
That's very interesting, Paula. She said, I think they're already near it, in reference to the crime scene. Probably don't have to leave their house to see it. And given how small and compact that area is, that's a high possibility for sure. A lot of people are saying, I'm starting to think fraternity. We've kind of always kept all that up on the table as a possibility. And again, anything's possible, as they haven't shown much information to the public, so we just don't know. Allison said, my cousin was murdered by 5 guys. After several months, a guy confessed and told the names of the others that were involved. Their families were shocked, said they never showed any signs. That's crazy, Allison. I'm sorry to hear that. And honestly, just because I have a younger brother and, I know a little bit, I think that this age is around the age of 18, even less than that. But I think that this college age is vital sometimes for people to speak up and not be a follower. And a lot of times there's still, even females will still fall into the crowd, you know what I mean? Like want to just do what the crowd's doing. So it concerns me that maybe whatever took place was like, it is like a younger, less than 25-year-old, but like, I don't know, maybe they followed the crowd and went with some crazy plan. I don't know. Or maybe it's just one crazy person. You know what I mean? It's really hard to wrap my mind around all that, especially with the cops outside doing that sobriety call with the younger kids. And I mean, all that is within the time frame. If we're going to believe, and that's a big if, it's not been confirmed that that video surveillance from the gas station is the perpetrator, well, is the vehicle that they want to speak to. But if that is, and that was seen at 3:45 a.m., the 19 to underage drinkers were on camera on the body cam footage at what 3:15 or no? All I'm saying is if the murders took place between 3 and 4 a.m., I mean, the cop being around there, and then this gas station employee not only says she sees the car, she says, quote, and again, this is from Fox, so hopefully they're quoting accurately. Usually I can rely on them, so that's why I'm perturbed a bit about Kaylee's family not being happy about what they quoted. But anyways, gas station lady said real quick. So, okay, 3:12. Thank you, Florida Bass Fishing and everyone in chat. So 3:12, cop is, within eyewitness or eyesight of the house. And then by 3:45, the gas station, which Chris McDonough, I believe on his community post from the interview room, he stated on his community page, which he was there a few weeks ago, that the gas station that they were referencing is 1 mile from the victim's house. So within all this time, 1 mile from the house, which would make it less than 2 miles away from where those cops were, like with those underage drinkers, for a car to be racing real quick, which was the words, it went by real quick. I don't know. It's just very ballsy of the person, I guess. Like, wow.
It makes sense. College towns are transient. If you think about the city or town where you grew up, people live in the same place for decades. You know who lives in different houses. You know what kind of cars they drive. You know what happens in the neighborhoods typically. In a college town like this, those kinds of aspects are changing all the time. People are moving in and out constantly, and that has made this investigation more difficult.
Terror ran through the neighborhood. It ran through the community. And I'm sure there were mom and dad saying, get your stuff, get in your car, and come home now.
Forensics professor and Body Bags podcast host Joseph Scott Morgan says those students going home potentially took important clues with them.
Good morning, Nicole. And yeah, so Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic analysis and certified death investigator, is saying, the timing of the crime with Thanksgiving and everyone leaving, that is unfortunate. We even heard Idaho State Police, Aaron Snell, state that they had to leave the area to go do interviews elsewhere, which added more time and, is just a different process than if you're in your own community and you call somebody in for an interview or you stop by for an interview or whatever. So this, even though it's been a month, you have to think about everything that's had to have taken place given the time of the crime, with it being right near Thanksgiving break. Now, was that done purposely? A lot of people think so.
He says phone calls with detectives.
What I want to know is this highway that they're saying, Highway 8, that the car was near with that gas station. Again, we don't know for sure if that's the car, but if it is, were they like hopping on the highway?
Just don't cut it.
But if you have an interviewer that's sitting there, they can ask that question and elicit a response and get that little piece of information that might lead back to something else. They heard something, they saw something. Have you ever met this person? Yeah, I have, but it didn't mean, well, where were you? Oh, really? You were there. So that's gone. It's not like you're in small town USA where people have lived there for generations. They ain't going nowhere. Their homes are there. That's not the case. People go home. Sometimes they don't come back.
And it's been quiet out here for the last month or so. A lot of students scared to come back, taking their classes online. It is especially quiet now, though. Graduation happened over the weekend. Finals are online for the most part. You walk around campus, there's almost no one around right now.
And given the fact that the laboratories have had 4 weeks, I would expect either there is going to be some progress moving forward, that there has been some isolation of DNA samples.
So this is a former FBI special agent, and he has interesting things. I think I clipped a few of them in here, so I'm trying to keep my mind like which one's what. One of them in here is like things that he says stuff, and then he says from my sources, which indicates to me that even though he's former FBI, he still obviously has connections and he's getting information somehow. So I've included his segment because I was like, okay, so does this guy have more than what, everyone else knows and all that? So I will point that out once we get to it. And thanks everybody for being here. 1,600 watching. Please give me a like. I appreciate you all.
With that being said, it may not be positively identifiable to someone because just quite frankly, they haven't been arrested, and so there's nothing in the system. But with that being said, the advancement of testing and genealogy workups, if they have been able to isolate certain suspicious samples, I think we are in the critical period, this 4 to 6 week period, where we may hopefully see some forward progress in cracking.
So he's saying 4 to 6 week period right now, everything from labs and all that should be coming back. Like there should be some sort of rotation in the case, hopefully at this point.
In this case wide open. That is a tail sign that the police department, local, state, and federal, to include the FBI, is satisfied that there would be no need in the future to return with any concern of spoliation or cross-contamination. So whatever they needed, and I think given the fact that it was almost 3 weeks before they released the crime scene back, I think it's a tail sign that they have what they needed. It's just now a question of allowing the laboratory testing to run its course, and hopefully there'll be some news to be reported.
So he is basically referencing the fact that last week law enforcement cleared the place out. He's saying like, well, there must be something going on behind the scenes that they feel confident enough to do something like that, for the crime scene. So I hate to just be the way, I just feel like they have way more than what we think. And on a lot of the media trying to push this whole, like, they have no idea what's going on. Like, they don't say that, but I feel like they give off the tone that like, quote, there's no clarity from law enforcement. And it's like, no, it's not that there's no clarity from law enforcement 100%. I mean, maybe a little bit of that, but a lot of it is like, they're protecting what they do know for a good reason.
That, in speaking to my sources, there have been quite a
So speaking to my sources, now listen, he's referring to the white car.
Few tips, and I think we're in the thousands with respect to this type of vehicle. But I think what the FBI and the local law enforcement community is trying to do is create a web, so to speak, with respect to identifying those cars that may be registered in Moscow or the adjoining cities or municipalities and kind of zero in. And so even if they're not able to get an exact tip with respect to that specific car, and again, this is painstaking investigative work. This is basically boots on the ground. And it is possible. I know the authorities are working with the Department of Motor Vehicle with respect to those type of vehicles being registered in the state of Idaho. Again, it takes time, but I do believe the car is relevant. My understanding is that it was picked up on some video surveillance being in the neighborhood at or about the time of these homicides. And then also it is possible that this type of vehicle was also seen in the last vicinity of when these individuals, these college students, were out and about prior to coming home. And that's why it was important with respect to trying to identify and contact the individuals in this car.
So this came out before that image from Fox came out from yesterday's news about the gas station that saw a white vehicle around 3:45 a.m. Again, law enforcement hasn't confirmed that that's exactly what car they're looking for, but given the time frame and all that, very interesting. Pardon me. So he's saying through his sources and under his understanding is that they have this vehicle on camera. So this was before that footage came out yesterday. So I think that it's safe to kind of bet on the fact that they have even more footage of this vehicle. So I think it's interesting that he also stated that this vehicle might have been seen, throughout the night near the victims, following them in a way. Like he stated something along the lines of they have it on camera being near the victims, I guess, So let's just listen to that again. I actually edited it in so you can replay it. So good morning, CDT. It's good to see you. And good morning, Brittany and everyone else who has joined.
Was also seen in the last vicinity of when these individuals, these college students, were out and about prior to coming home. And that's why it was important with respect to trying to identify and contact the individuals.
Individuals, that's another thing that I noticed. And again, he stated something about like the people in the vehicle too, like as if he knows that there's more than one person. Again, I don't know if that's exactly what he's saying, but I found that interesting. And if this car was kind of seen near the victims prior in the night, then it seems like they were being maybe unknowingly followed by this white vehicle throughout the night. Again, not 100% confirmed, but from listening to what this guy has seen and said.
In this car. It was important to trying to identify and contact the individuals in this car.
Is that ever the case that there's nothing under four victims' fingernails?
Yeah, it is. One of the interesting things is, one of the things we find with bodies many times that's caught in the hands, and it's not necessarily under the fingernails, Ash, is hair from the
And here we can see on there, it showed on the last press release, they are still leaving occupants in plural in reference to the car. And Joseph Scott Morgan was here on News Nation, and he's speaking about hair can be, get stuck in blood and be left at the scene. And, he goes on and on. So it's very interesting. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Amstel54. Appreciate that. We do have a good chat. And I like your picture.
And many times that contacts onto the surface of the hands because the hands are spattered in blood. If you think how sticky blood is, and the perpetrator's not even aware that they've left their hair behind. That happens many times. Sure, you've got all of the either natural or synthetic fibers that arise from any garment that the individual is wearing, including a ski mask, for instance, that might be made of some kind of acrylic or some kind of blend that you see with these things many times. And so you can get evidence from there as well. It's quite fascinating, things that can be collected from hands. And you have to keep in mind, you heard of us doing nail scrapings. We do that after the bags are removed. And we also do nail trimmings, but the bags are set aside and kept separately. And then all of the items that are contained in there that fall off in transport are preserved. And that's very important.
But we talked to the coroner today, asking if she would describe Kaylee's injuries that way.
Now, this is in reference to Fox reporting, I think, on Monday afternoon, just more details of the crime scene. And then on Facebook, Steve's daughter, Kaylee's sister, has stated that, she thought unfortunately, the reporter gave bad information. We're working with a lawyer to get this removed. And then all of a sudden this Facebook post was removed also. But it seems as though it's valid. So it's not a fake account. It's not somebody pretending to be Kaylee's sister, but the post is now gone. I don't know why or what's going on, but then the lawyer came out and was speaking all around the media yesterday, but didn't really talk about this. And maybe because Fox News did a whole segment with them. I don't know. So, okay, Riddler, I'll check that out while I play this. So anyways, this is News Nation giving us a statement from the coroner from this week. So News Nation asked, was that accurate about the details that Fox reported? And she said no. So they weren't gouges or whatever. According to what News Nation is saying, the coroner told them. So that kind of corroborates what the sister is saying too. Like, no, that wasn't true information. I wonder if some of that information was true and some of it wasn't. Unfortunately, I don't know which ones to rely on. But it seems like the coroner is someone that I can hang my hat on, like, okay, well, you were there.
As tears, and she said no, clearly, exclamation point, in fact.
Of the 4 University of Idaho.
Now, this is just going back to the last statement, which was on November 19th that the coroner made to CBS. And then this will go back into her statements given beforehand. This one I have to read because it was a article that Kathy Maybutt commented in. It seems like chat is agreeing too that some of the articles seemed legit and other parts we just don't know, unfortunately.
Idaho students who were found stabbed to death in a...
And the reason why I want to go over the coroner's statements again, guys, is because that was factual information. That is stuff that I think that we need to keep in the forefront of our mind. We don't have access to the crime scene photos, obviously, but we need to hang a little bit of truth on the fact that she was there. She got there around 5:30 that evening, and obviously pronounced them all dead. So I think that her information is important. And this is the information that she gave where she corrects her first statements. So just stay with me, guys. And I think that there's a reason why they had the coroner stop making statements. But I do find what the things she said are interesting and things that we need to kind of rely on, because I think that information that came out this week where the family was like, no, we didn't say that, it hurts the case, obviously, to have things be kind of wish-washed. So I think we need to just listen again on the coroner and just rethink.
Rental house last Sunday. Some were killed in their beds. The Latah County coroner told CBS News Friday. Coroner Kathy Maybutt would not provide any further details. She noted, however, that earlier media reports stating all 4 victims had been murdered in their beds were not accurate. On Thursday, Maybutt told CBS News that students were killed with a larger knife, expanding on the autopsy reports, which concluded the 4 victims were stabbed to death. The women were roommates. The bodies were found around noon on Sunday, November 13th. Moscow police said Friday that while initial reports had indicated Ethan lived at the residence, he was just visiting at the time of his death. 2 surviving roommates were found in the home unharmed. At this point, investigators do not believe the 2 surviving roommates were involved in the killings, police said.
There were stab wounds on the hands of at least one of the students that make it appear that it would be defensive wounds.
Likely that maybe they were sleeping. Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound. Fatal ones were to the chest area or the upper body area. There were multiple stab wounds on them. Well, it was a pretty large knife, and there were definitely stabbings. And it has to be somebody that's pretty angry.
They still, though, aren't releasing who called 911 because they're saying that these murders happened around maybe 3 or 4 a.m. last Sunday morning. Police were not called until noon, and they arrived to this home with the front door wide open.
So I included that part. It was from a reporter on Court TV. Court TV, we love referencing them. They do a great job. Can a moderator actually link that article for me? Really, Jana said former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendorfer tweeted this morning that Fox records Fox records all interviews to avoid false accusations. Interesting. So does that mean maybe the family forgot that they said certain things? I don't know, guys. There's like a lot of back and forth with communication in all of this. Like, I don't know. It's unfortunate that we just can't get something straight. But anyways, back to this court TV thing. Now, in the last live stream and on CDT's channel, we've gone through the chief stating in the first press conference that the door was open. And then Fox News reported on the scene that a neighbor told her that when they walked their dog around 8:39 in the morning, the door was open. So everyone's kind of been like, okay, was the door open? Was it just unlocked? Like, what do they mean? Now, here we have court TV. This is from 3 weeks ago. I couldn't find the exact date when I was editing this, but this is a previous report closer to the time when everything was breaking. And she is stating that the door was wide open. So I just thought that that was another added detail to kind of corroborate that I'm thinking the door was open when the cops arrived. Now, was it open because friends were summoned over there and they just left it open? Was it open because that 911 call is true and somebody went running out? You know what I mean? I don't know, but it seems like that door with the wreath, not the back sliding door, was open for sure. I mean, at least I can say more stuff is backing up that theory.
They still, though, aren't releasing who called 911 because they're saying that these murders happened around maybe 3 or 4 a.m. last Sunday morning. Police were not called until noon, and they arrived to this home with the front door wide open.
So just wanted to include that with you guys. Let me see. There was I want to play. What are we at now? Okay, I want to play a little bit of the court TV that occurred the other day that we never really finished. Oh, wait, no. This one's a newer one. But I'm just going to play like the talking points at the end because I just like their panel and I want to listen to it a little bit more with you guys. And thank you all for being here and stay with me while I switch my screen up. And thank you, Nana, to Peyton72 for becoming a member. I really appreciate the extra support to the channel. Thank you so much. All I ask of you guys is to hit the thumbs up, and everything else obviously is appreciated. So how's everybody doing while I switch my screen? Hope everyone's having a good morning so far. Okay, so this was 17 hours ago. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I just want to play the last bit.
I mean,
let me know if you can hear it.
The community is responding. I think
absolutely.
So my wife got me this weird new tool for Christmas, and at first I thought it was.
They are hoping that one of these tips leads to something, and sometimes someone may know something that they don't think is significant and ends up being very significant. But I'm intrigued by this car. If it's around the scene at the time, maybe they saw something, or maybe they are perhaps involved. Who knows? Who knows? Laura, your thoughts about the re-interviewing of people. I find that fascinating as well, going back and speaking to people. We just saw in the Delphi murders, they went back to re-interview someone from 5 years ago. Turns out to be the alleged killer, so can't hurt.
Everybody keeps referencing how long it took for the Delphi arrest, and I'm like, can we not make that the standard? Like, that happened because of a mistake. Like, the killer actually went to the cops in that case, like, early on and was like, yeah, I was there that day. That fell through the cracks. We don't want to compare that. Anyways, I think that Vinny brings up a good point that, crap, now I forgot it. Yeah, the car is huge and gone.
No,
No, it definitely can't hurt, Vinny, and
Now I remember. Okay, re-interviewing people. Do you guys think that, or who do you guys think was re-interviewed? I'm curious. And comment down below who you think.
victimology is many times the smoking gun from the standpoint of it identifies to investigators where there might be conflict between the victims and a particular person or group of people if it's more than one offender. So when we start out in an investigation like this, we start out with the basic questions, which we call tier 1. And then as you get deeper into the data, you can then extract like a tier 2 and tier 3. So as you understand the material more, then it develops more follow-up questions for certain people. And it's important to recognize that what the captain said is true. Not only is it true that we never know what's going on inside an investigation from like the DA's office standpoint or the police agency standpoint, but people that are seeing these behaviors in the offenders at this time and since the 4 weeks since the murders, they might not be understanding what they're seeing or what they've seen directly after the murders in the time period following the murders, and therefore going back and interviewing those witnesses again could bring to their awareness, yes, you know what, that break in routine that I just saw in my loved one or my friend, that is so unusual that they would do that. They've never done that before, and bring that to police attention. They don't, a lot of times witnesses just don't understand that what they're seeing and what they're hearing, what they feel, all those things are relevant to the investigation. They don't know.
I want you to take a listen. This is Mary Ellen O'Toole, a former senior FBI profiler. Here's what she had to say about this case.
I've got a lot of thank you face looking to do. I got all the toys I wanted from Peck.
We want to look for somebody that has blended back into society, but someone who has a hatred, not necessarily for that specific person, but maybe for a group of people that that victim represented.
All right, Caitlin Becker, if you're looking along these lines for someone that the victim or victims may have represented, they're college students. What else is going on in their lives? What groups are they members of here?
We're looking at sororities and fraternities. I think we're also looking at, it's really hard to deny that these are 4 very beautiful young people who were popular. They had a lot of friends. They were very social. It seems like that former profile is almost sort of indicating there's an incel theory that has been floating around that some people kind of think is something they're leaning towards, something it's not. That's an involuntary celibate person who would be going after the type of unattainable people that they can't get. But it's interesting that there's enough speculation about what a profile of this killer would be, but that the authorities specifically have chosen not to release that profile. And I would be curious, actually, from both of your perspectives, maybe if you could weigh in on why that would be, because from my perspective as a reporter, I feel like that would be helpful for us.
Go ahead, Laura.
So, Caitlin and Vinny, what I'm going to say about that is when you're developing an offender profile, there's several things that have to be taken into consideration. Of course, first, the victimology is first and foremost, but then we always want to look at 4 things whenever you're studying a type of homicide. And those 4 things are the scene or the crime dynamics, the scene characteristics, the victimology, and then all 3 of those things culminate into being able to discern certain aspects that are consistent with a victim or an offender profile. So not only do you profile the offender, but it's what common denominator of the victims, from the standpoint that there are 4 of them here. So like, what is that common denominator between them that drew a particular person or persons to these group of kids? Just like you said, Caitlin, they are connected to sororities and fraternities. And for those reasons, very specifically, sometimes people are rejected, sometimes people are not included. It can definitely be a societal and cultural aspect of people that are related to each other and people that are jealous. I mean, this type of a homicide has a lot of those types of characteristics, and murder is typically simple. It's typically conflict resolution for the offender in some way.
Dr. Laura Petler, Caitlin Becker, thank you both so much. Appreciate your time, your insight tonight. We'll talk again as we continue to cover this story.
Okay, so that was the end that I wanted to share with you guys. I guess we could recap everything that we've gone through so far. And CDT, if you're listening, I texted you through my laptop because my phone's dead. But yeah, we just went through the latest from the captain, which was very interesting. He gives a full recount and recap of what happened that day when he got the dispatch call in reference to the scene. So, you know, do you know? Because law enforcement has said, they said that there was an unconscious person. I just can't wrap my head around this 911 call, guys. The multiple people being on there, maybe people were hyperventilating and all that, you know? I don't know, but huge answers lie in that, or, you know, there's a reason they're protecting that. Anyways, that was really interesting to listen to the captain talk about that. There was also emphasis from the public information officer in the beginning of the stream where she pretty much is certain that that white car was there. She states it more than one interview. We put a compilation together there. We hear from the coroner through News Nation this week and in the stream that she is not agreeing with the tears comment that was going around since Monday evening. She did not agree with that. And that the family has come out saying that that wasn't really accurate either. So who knows? Some of it I'm sure is, who knows? But let's see, what else, guys? I did want to share this real quick. Let me just share my screen while we're finishing up. I thought this was a good visual. And I sent this to Kelly too, in case she wants to go through it more thoroughly, but this just breaks it down. But I'm realizing too, on this timeline here, we need to account for, you know, even though it doesn't really involve the victims, I think overall timeline, including the 3:15 police body cam footage of the students, the underage drinkers, I think we need to kind of keep that in mind too when we're trying to narrow out, like, you know, which road would if they were in a vehicle, you know, obviously they're not going to drive by the cops or whatever. I don't know, because then that gas station apparently sees that white car on their camera around 3:45, and the quote was real quick. So somebody was in a hurry, possibly. And again, that was somebody's opinion as they're watching it. We don't know if this is accurate information from law enforcement just yet. And they pretty much, it's too soon for them to know because this tip got to them yesterday. So hopefully there's other people who are deciding to go through their camera footage around the time and kind of re-go through some stuff and retrace some previous early on investigative tools, like just a CCTV footage. I know it's hard work, but something could be on there that we need. But thank you guys for being here this morning with me. Okay, so CDT, I will be in her live stream this morning moderating, and she's going live around 11:15 so we can continue the case discussion over there. And then what I'll do over the next few days is put together more updates and highlights from the updates. And then we can do another compilation here and just go through some stuff together. I'm still working on my Chris Watts Uncensored family documentary too. It's literally over 3.5 hours. I'm finishing it up. I promised everybody that it would be done by December. So I'm working on that behind the scenes, as well as following this case and its updates. Follow the community post too as well, because I'll try to post updates there in between my live streams. So I just want to thank you guys all for being here. I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. we'll talk soon. If we don't have a live stream Friday morning on the case, then we'll definitely have a really good one on Monday morning so that I can kind of gather some stuff. There's nothing new coming out really. So I just really appreciate you guys. So thank you so much. And you guys have a great day.